So we have another episode of Sit Downs with the Stand-Ups. And like I told you, I only interview people that I respect, that I love, people that I've seen grow and evolve. I don't believe everyone even deserves to be interviewed. I think a lot of these people interview the wrong people, or people that don't even matter into the culture, or, actually take away from the culture. So without saying anything, whoever's going to sit down here is somebody that I respect. But not only do I respect this person, but this is somebody that I call a brother. You know what I'm saying? Someone that I have always had respect for, someone that I've watched go through different phases of his life, from being a hip-hop artist, from street hip-hop artist, to just evolving into something that is way bigger, something that is uniting the culture, someone that's educating on a level that I never would have imagined. So without further ado, I want to introduce my brother, Amir, a.k.a. Loon, yeah. A.k.a. Chauncey.
Hey, yo. Pleasure, man.
Pleasure, man.
Yeah, that was a good introduction.
Yes, sir.
Said a lot about us.
Yes.
I'm actually a fan as well as of evolution. I don't believe in stagnation. I don't believe in being subjected to your environment. I believe that, even if you move an inch, it's progress.
That's right.
Because a lot of us, we get discouraged if we ain't moving, above the speed limit. Like, everything got to be fast. It's like sometimes, crawling should be considered, progress.
That's right.
Yeah, so, you definitely involved a lot, too. I would have never known you was this well-spoken. We did the little, the bike ride joint.
Mm-hmm.
You got up there, sounded like Huey. I was like, okay. I mean, it came a long way. Had people ready to throw their bikes and now I'm waiting for them. But yeah, man, it's a pleasure to be here, man. Definitely, because I feel the same way.
Definitely.
It's not something that should be given to just anybody, especially with us having the opportunity to be journalists now.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what I look at these platforms as. Us having the opportunity control our narrative, tell our stories, and not let, mainstream media or any media for that matter dictate, the state of our communities and, whether we're growing, evolving, or remaining stagnated. We should be able to, illustrate those stories.
That's right. So just for me, every time I see you, you put a smile on my face, man, because you're my brother. But knowing all that you've been through, because I was out the loop for a while.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I didn't know that you was so heavily into Islam. Yeah. Prior to even being incarcerated, I didn't know these things. Yeah. So when I go now, I just study and just paying attention, and I'm listening to you. I'm like, yo, this is an imam. This ain't just a regular person that's just talking. This is a person who studied, like really has studied Islam and is evolved. But I remember Chauncey. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I remember Chauncey when we was in the studio and we was rapping and we was there. The chicks was there. It was, you know what I'm saying? Whatever Loon was like, what? Yeah. Whatever it is that. You know what I'm saying? So just watching you evolve, and I know that there's this stigma. You know what I'm saying? That's why I started this show, because there's a stigma with formerly incarcerated individuals that we can't evolve, that we can't be successful. I was just having a conversation with my friend Teslin Figueroa. Shout out to Tez, and she does a segment on the Breakfast Club now. Okay, where she's like the political pundit up there. She brings up the political situation. She interviews and there was a discussion about Ebony K. Williams, who's also a political person, and she said that she wouldn't date a bus driver.
Yeah.
So she brought her on the live, and then they was going back and forth, and then Teslin was like, well, I date formerly incarcerated individuals who might turn into a bus driver and then might start owning the bus company.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So she had that dialogue, and she was telling me how people was just shooting her down like, oh, you want to date the bottom of the barrel. How you going to date somebody who was incarcerated? And there's this stigma. So when I started this show, I want to dispel those myths.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? People who have been formerly incarcerated have made poor choices. Some of us was locked up for crimes we never committed.
Absolutely.
And we came back to society, and we've evolved into what, we've moved past. We've actually lapped people who've been out here longer than us.
I think, like, with that stigma, what I've learned, you know, the time I was incarcerated in the feds, is that you have a certain level of ingenuity that is completely overlooked. And I think we underestimate the will to survive. You know, when you put a person in an environment where they got minimal resource, and they make that minimal resource something that becomes actually a mirror of what's outside the prison system. Like, we create the same society within prison that's outside of prison. Because people don't understand that. You go to prison, everything that's on the street is in prison.
That's a fact.
You got drugs in the prison, you got stick-up kids, you got everything that's on the streets is in prison. Predators, whatever the case may be. Then you got some very creative people. I don't watch people cook, like, you know, filet mignon in the microwave.
That's
you know what I'm saying? With no heat. You know what I'm saying? With just boiling water. I've seen stuff that if these men were given a chance, and that's the thing. You know, I can understand someone having an opinion or a perspective of not wanting to, you know, engage in a relationship with someone who may choose, you know, a position in life that's not celebrated. And I want to say it that way as far as a bus driver, because that's just a position that's not celebrated. We're not going to demean the fact that that person's still bringing home, you know what I'm saying, he's putting food on the table.
That's right.
He's providing for his family. You know what I'm saying? And that comes with something that, you know, society shouldn't dictate whether this man has integrity or he has the ability to provide and protect for his family because of his career choice, you know. But like I said, like, men coming or re-entering society and trying to get reacclimated after like 20, 30 years of being removed from society. And a lot of us, we find our way, you know what I'm saying, because we've been consistently immersed in something that, like I said, is a reflection of what's going on outside. You know what I'm saying? We're not that removed, you know. So for those who invest in that and try to, you know, educate themselves and stay in the loop of what's going on, certain changes and things that evolve in society, they'll fall right in, you know, right in pocket once they release. But I have this saying about some people who is incarcerated do a long 2 days, meaning like the BS they went in on, they come out on the same thing. So you don't count the 15, 20 in the middle. You just did a long 2 days. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I agree, man. I just think that, you know, we have to be a little bit more cognizant of some of the circumstances that, you know, plagued our communities. And most guys, like you said, that made poor decisions or just embraced what was present, you know, and tried to make the most of it, you know. To me, I believe it takes a certain amount of courage, you know what I'm saying, to try to, you know, for lack of better words, you know, turn shit into sugar, you know. And then you had a lot of guys that we grew up with just wanted to be in the mix. But you had some guys that was literally the man in their house at 12. That's
a fact.
You know?
That's the same conversation Aaron was having.
Yeah.
Aaron was like at 12 and 13.
Yeah.
I was the man in my house.
Yo, that was normal. That's what I'm trying to say. These normalities that we have in our community is abnormal to everybody else. Because I tell people, like, growing up in the street, like, you know, Harlem in itself was like a Fortune 500 company. To be 8 years old, stand on the block, do an 8-hour shift just as a lookout. You was getting $100 a day just to say, yo, thermo, or 5 or whatever, 12, whatever. Just do that for 8 hours straight. You get $100.
So that brings you straight to this. I want to start. So Young Loon in Harlem.
Yeah.
What was Young Loon doing in Harlem?
Hustling.
From like the age of what
like
age?
Everybody else in Harlem. From 8 years old is when it really started for me. Because, for example, packing bags in the supermarket.
Yep.
You know, pumping gas. We used to actually set up at the self-service and actually provide a service. It just get tips. We ain't had no charge for it, but it's just like people just they didn't feel like getting out their car. We like, you know, I got it.
Yeah.
You know, washing windows. I used to come to the Bronx to get my air fresheners and sell them in Harlem for $1 a pop. Get them for 50 cents in the Bronx, bring them over to, you know, saying, have my little Armor Raw spray. I wash cars. So they come out there, you know, saying, you know, we do detail, you know, paper route on Sunday. And I was bagging up for my cousin. That's a full day for a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's like a full week to be a kid. And then we go right to 139th for Linux. Pro Cats was $10, $15. You know what I'm saying? So to have flavors of sneakers, you know what I'm saying, was nothing back then, you know, compared to like what you spend on sneakers now. You know, those little hustles enabled us to have the things that we needed to keep up with the persona of Harlem. You know what I'm saying? Before you even get immersed in the drug business, just hustling. You know, it starts off just hustling.
Yeah.
Start off a lookout. You start off, then like you graduate to probably bagging up or whatever the case may be. But the city itself operated like a Fortune 500 company.
Mm.
And I know it was a statement that even Elon Musk made. He said that some of the best businessmen or entrepreneurs are ex-drug dealers. Because we function under the radar. We joyride. We got one slip up. So for a person to have a 5-year, 10-year run back then was big. It was like, yo, because you doing all of this under the radar.
And you gotta duck the police. You got
every not
day.
Just the police. You gotta duck the stick up kid. You gotta duck the the envious dude that's right down the block doing the same thing you doing. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be on the lookout for a coup. You know, cats getting tired of you being at the head of, you know what I'm saying, head of the table. You know, all kinds of stuff is that we had to, and that type of stress. That's a lot of stress, man. You know what I'm saying? For a young kid growing up to have to bear, whether it's, you know, circumstantial or whether it's choice.
Yeah.
It's serious, you know.
So you started out packing bags, air freshener. At what time, when did you evolve to drugs and that level of hustle?
When I got about, I would say about like 1990.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think the first time I went out of town, you know what I'm saying, I got jammed up in York, Pennsylvania, you know, at a young age. You know, then it was like Binghamton. It was like, you know, we was touring with this stuff, you know, because that's what it was with New York. We would go stick a flag anywhere. You know what I'm saying? That's why, you know, we were so arrogant. We go anywhere and set up shop. You know, so at like the age of 16, you know, and I don't really go into this stuff much because, you know, it's so in the rear view, but literally at 16, I probably was doing like a joint every 2 days. You know what I'm saying?
That's crazy.
You're talking about $2 bottles.
That's
you know what
crazy.
I mean? That's a lot of work. That's like no childhood. It's like we always in the process of reeing up, because it's like, you know, and it was like those days used to be so fun because we were actually generating something that enabled us to enjoy, you know, the lifestyle that we had, you know, chose to live. And at the same time, it was teaching us that we can operate at a capacity if we ever made that pivotal move to something legitimate, we will already have the training, you know, opposed to people that just wanted to be out there for show. That was never my motivation. I always wanted to evolve. I never saw myself stuck on no block. That's why I'm saying when we started going out of town at a young age, that was really more of me having not even worldly experiences yet, but just experiences outside of my environment that taught me more about my environment from those experiences. Because, you know, when you in it, you don't see nothing.
That's right.
You know what I mean? This is why you got coaches and players. Players just in the mix. They just think they going to shake and bake, butter roll, and the coach like, nah, man, shoot the three. You know, every time you go to the 3-point line, the defense back up, shoot the three. You're like, nah, coach, I mean, I got it. I'm like, you're not listening.
Yeah, I'm watching.
You don't see what I see.
Exactly.
Like, yo, shoot the three. Next thing you know, he become a 3-point threat.
That's a fact.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the relationship between coaches and players. So me, I always listen to the coaches. And that's how I evolve. And I think that's something that's missing with the youth. They don't listen to the elders. They don't listen to the people that preceded them. They don't listen to the people who had experiences that you're about to encounter, and they can spare you from having to endure it, you know? And I used to love it because, you know, that means that the people that you admire was watching you.
That's a fact.
You know what I mean? That meant a lot. Like, I abandoned my crew in a minute. They be like, yo, old head be like, yo, come here, let me holler at you, man. He be like, yo, I'll be right back. Immediately. He like, look, man, you know them boys to do anything you tell them to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, what you mean? You don't even see it. They're
You
your
don't
boys.
see it.
Like, listen, man, I'm telling you, tell all of them go jump off the bridge right now. They all be swimming.
Yeah.
Man, look at it like that. Well, why you say that? He said, because you got leadership quality, man. You the one keep coming up the plan. You know, it's crazy, man.
And it's crazy that you say that, because I remember being young. I always listened to the elders.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like when I started, even when I got into hip hop and I was with Tone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So everything he told me,
Shout
that's
out
why
to
he
Tone,
loved
man.
it. Shout out to Tone, man. You know what I'm saying? Everything.
Yeah,
That's why we
nice,
had
man,
such a good.
nice.
Yeah, that's why we had such a good relationship, because he would say the same thing to me, like, "Yo, you this and that." And I just would listen. And I'd be like, "All right, let's make this move." You know, I always soaked up that, you know, that wisdom from the elders, man. So that's important.
Yeah.
So you started out, you was hustling in the 90s. When did you transition into hip hop? Like, was it something that you always loved, or you just one day decided?
To be honest with you, see, I moved to Cali in '89.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't know, you know, I was something like the original Fresh Prince.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, my godfather was George Jackson. He produced, you know, Crush Groove, you know, Disorderly, New Jack City, you know, JoJo Dancer, like Thin Line Between Love and Hate. He actually birthed a lot of people's careers. It boggles me sometimes when I don't hear, and I'm not saying nothing to be, you know, any kind of way, but I don't be hearing the Wesley Snipes or the Ice-T's, and none of them really shouting them out. You know what I'm saying? Because these were groundbreaking roles for them. But anyway, you know, an incident had took place in Harlem, because I used to fight all the time. You know what I'm saying? Anybody that really know me in Harlem know, you know, I used to bump. You know what I mean? It's like I fought maybe 75% of my friends before we became friends, because that was just normal. That was normal to, you know, for us to always have that underlying doubt of who could beat who.
It was, you know what I say it is? I say it all the time. It's lion energy.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you walk in the room with another lion, when you're young, and I say, the people that I had the biggest fights with became my best friends. Like all the beefs, people wanted to see us go at it. Yeah. People used to be like, "Oh, I want to see."
Man, I'm talking about old ladies out the window.
Yeah.
People going to get people. You seeing people show up because it's like the main event. Because these two dudes is like, you know, they the ones. And people understand, like, growing up in that time, there wasn't no fear of death. We was surviving this stuff. We was living. You know, and if you thought it was a fluke, we could run it again. Like, yo, what you thought it was a fluke? Like, we could do it again. But then when situations occur, that's the first person you go get. You know what I mean? You like, yo, come downstairs. Like, what you trying to say? Nah, it ain't that. I need you to come downstairs because I seen your work. Exactly. I need you to come with me over here.
Because it's us against them.
Yeah, because now it's us against them. I got a few cats on the block that I be around every day. I ain't seen nothing. I ain't seen nothing pop with them. But me and you, like, I you know, so like you said, these were different times. It was a different understanding, and it's something I would never trade in for nothing in the world, because that level of integrity and zeal that we had for life, not for death. You know what I'm saying? We had this zeal for life because all these things correspond with life. You know what I'm saying? Growing and evolving. Learning from your elders, being steered in a direction where you could win and you don't have to fail like everybody else. Like, those are things I definitely, you know, held close to my heart and I admired. So now, getting into the music thing, it really started off with me, you know, writing like a diary. You know, like, I was so wild in school, I couldn't even go back to public school unless I had a therapist. So I saw a therapist twice a day for 4 years. This was one of the conditions for me to go to public school. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like I had serious behavior issues. I didn't know how to talk. I didn't know how to articulate. Then my voice back when I was young, it sounded probably more softer than, you know, it sound now, or how it sound on records. I was, you know, I hadn't really, you know, my voice hadn't really changed. So I always found myself having to go the extra yard because nobody taking me serious. I'm like, you know, so like, yo, what you trying to say? You know, you can't look at that. She's like, what? Yeah, all right. And it's like, you got to turn up because I can't even talk you out of this joint. So anyway, through that therapy, I started to learn how to communicate. I learned how to communicate some of the things that I bottled in and I held in. And once it was over, it was a hardship for me to not be able to have that therapy. So what I did, I maintained it on my own by writing a diary, getting this stuff out. You know what I'm saying? Unpacking on my own terms, but not really disclosing it to nobody. It was my own therapeutic method of dealing with the things that we were dealing with in the street without telling nobody. Because, you know, you can't tell you. You can't tell you.
Pain and
you know
all
what
that.
they did to Tony Soprano?
Exactly.
They'd have found out he was going to see the therapist. Or they'd have murdered him. You know what I'm saying? So then that morphed into 3 stages. First, it was like diary form. I write it like I was writing for a teacher. Then I write it like I was writing for somebody in prison. So you add all the slang and all the excitement to it. Your word, you know, and then next I start writing it in rhyme.
Mm-hmm.
So I took that methodology and started to use it to overcome things. Because now I could say what I wanted to do to Poppy. Even though I didn't do it,
but you wanted to.
I really wanted to do something to Poppy. Because, I
Yep.
went and 128 just disappeared. You know what I'm saying? We put fire to that joint. That joint ain't come back the way it's supposed to. So in my mind, I go kill a whole Broadway. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But in all actuality, that helped me like, okay, you know what? I'm going to eat that, keep it pushing, boom, boom, boom. But for me to have that moment, it meant a lot. You know what I'm saying? To be able to unpack and deal with certain things. So that was the creative process. So, and I kind of shared, you know, the story is in a documentary I'm working on. You know what I'm saying, about my life story. It's like, I used to have these notebooks, and I got jammed up one time, a little situation with a car. I bought a tagged up car, and it wasn't fully tagged up, you know. But anyway, when my homeboy came to pick me up from the precinct, he started quoting stuff that was in that book. And I'm like, yo, where you hear that from? Like, yo, you got my book? Because now I'm feeling like we were talking about earlier, like, yo, some emotions is getting, you know, exposed that I didn't want. But instead of discouraging me, he encouraged me. He was like, yo, you should stick to this. Like, this is serious. Like, what you doing? I didn't see it that way. Mm-hmm. It was just therapy for me. Mm-hmm. I wasn't a rapper. I wasn't in ciphers like that. I didn't have a manager that just like, yo, kick the joint about your mother. Like, I wasn't the wind-up dude. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, yo, I evolved into that from one stage to another stage. And then when I got into the music, people don't know I actually was a ghostwriter first. You know what I'm saying? Because of all of the escapades, going out of town, got several different aliases. I'm black in this city. I'm blue in this city. You know what I mean? I was afraid that if any of this pop off and the first time I'm on the camera, I'm going to get, you know, I'm getting jammed up. So I was cool with the ghostwriting stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, the first person I ever wrote for and got a check was Shaquille O'Neal. People don't really know. Like,
wow, I never knew that.
Like 95.
Okay, Shaq.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
That's my guy too.
Yeah, I would take the check straight to the dealer.
Straight to the dealer.
Yeah. What you could do with this, man? You know, I'd take this, add cash, whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? It was like, it was another revenue stream for me, and I didn't have to, you know, indulge in the things that I was doing prior to that. So, you know.
So when did you start, you know, get down with Harlem World? How did you and Mase connect?
See, now the Harlem World thing, you know,
because that's where I met you at.
No question. Okay. No question. And the history behind that is, you know, me and my man Jay Nitty, we had a group called Crime Family. You know, because Harlem at the time had their little cliques. You had BBO, Best Ballers Out. You had Major League. You know what I'm saying? My man Norm and Future. Then you had Children of the Corn. You know, I think Mase was with BBO first. Like, Mase had actually bounced around a few cliques, but Children of the Corn ended up being him, L, Bloodshed, Cam, Herb McGruff. Me and Nitty, we was, you know, Crime Family, and we was all kind of like, you know, this was a nuance for Harlem. Because Harlem, you know, we was only known for what? Curtis Blow, Kool Mo D. Like, it wasn't like, you know, we was the dudes, we was the backdrop to hip hop. You know what I'm saying? When you look at Harlem and you got Brucey B and all of these people, Love Bug, Starsky, everybody that was into the hip hop, the ambiance came from these fur coat wearing Harlem dudes and all these dudes that bring that visual to hip hop. We wasn't wearing shell toes and all that.
No, it was.
Yeah, we was doing a whole different vibe. So like for this whole nuance to take place and everybody was kind of like trying to get in the game, we had to deal with Tommy Boy around 96.
So Crime Family.
Crime Family.
Okay.
The name of the album was Harlem World.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? We used to do Maria Davis joint. It was known that that's what we was on. It was Crime Family, Harlem World. You know, this was the vibe. Then Mase got signed in 97. You know, came out with Harlem World. So the internal issue in Harlem.
So it started out as a beef. Like, what? You taking Harlem World?
Yeah, it started off on it was more like a hijack. Because it was like, yo, dude aligned himself with a machine, which at the time was Bad Boy.
That was able to push it bigger than y'all, so he just like
exactly.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because Fat Man Scoop had signed us. He was like the head A&R at Tommy Boy, and then once he signed us, he left. So we didn't have nobody at that label at the time that even understood what we was trying to do. So we kind of like remained stagnated. But then Mase came out and showed the world exactly what to do with it. But internally, it was like, yo, I know dude ain't just like, you know. So it definitely was a situation where our paths wasn't crossing. And I was definitely like, you know, in my body to an extent, because I'm like, I ain't never got robbed. I ain't never had nobody take nothing from me. You know what I'm saying? Now it's happening. No gun, no kung fu, no nothing. No dude just like runs off in the sunset. And it was like, it was known. It was known in Harlem. It was known. But I think that because Mase is not, he's very intelligent. You know what I'm saying? And he does some sensible things, you know, and we all, you know, we do some things that don't make sense. But the sensible thing was to come back, you know. And when we was supposed to originally do the Harlem World group, it was supposed to be me, Big L, Cam, McGruff. At least that's how it was sold to me, because that was the only way I was going to get on board, you know. But then at the time, I don't think Cass was really feeling Mase at the time. It was like, nah, that's a dub. But I stuck around because, you know, the opportunity was, you know, we was going to partner with Jermaine Dupri. You know what I'm saying? So that's a machine. It's like, okay, cool. Since you got a machine behind it, we can make this work. So the group ultimately became me, Blinky Blink, you know, HUD, Mino, Cardan, you know, and Stace. You know what I'm saying? So, you know.
So that's how it evolved from. So basically it started as y'all was hijacked.
Yeah.
It started with internal friction and all of that. You was like, niggas done robbed me. And then Mase decided, realized, like, nah, we ain't trying to do no bullshit. This is Harlem. Let's try to figure it out. And came back and got you.
Yeah, because, I mean, I was going at them on Ron G joints and all that. Like,
so it was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
nah,
so
it was up. This was before anybody
I ain't gonna lie, I kind of remember that it was a little bit of, you know, like, I do remember these conversations.
I was going in, 914. I was going off at Mount Vernon. I was just like, because it was like, yo, hold up. They just stuck me up with no gun. You know what I'm saying? And I was like really one of the first dudes to just be talking at the end of a track. Like, you know, disrespectful stuff. And then like kind of Pac morphed into that being his MO. Just after a song, just talk greasy over the rest of the beat. So it was like, that's what was brewing, you know? And like I said, for him to come back, you know, and extend the olive branch and be like, yo, you know, I want to build this around you. And that's really how it was presented to me. I want to build this group around you. You know, and I wrote a lot of the songs on the Harlem group. You know what I'm saying? And that's really where we met. You know what I'm saying? Like when he was working on the second album, which was Double Up. And we did the Start From Scratch joint, you know. And, you know, like I said, though, you know, those were some days, man, you know, we were just young. We getting into this business that's way bigger than anything we've ever imagined. And we all coming from, you know, similar backgrounds, hungry, you know, trying to make it happen. And, you know, I wouldn't trade it for nothing in the world. Like, all those things happened. They made me a better person. They made me see my own worth, my own potential. You know what I'm saying? And it was definitely like, you know, it was a lot of growth in that.
It definitely was, man. And I went to jail like right after that. So, but how was you and Mase's relationship now? How was?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I haven't really. I spoke to him one time since I've been home. I spoke to him a couple times while I was locked up. Because I remember when the whole thing broke out with him and Cam, and, you know, kind of, you know, he reached out, or I reached out. Either way, we ended up on the phone talking about it. And I explained to him. I was like, look, you know, because he was like, yo, Loon, you know, like, it's like, to have them honest moments with Mase, they are definitely priceless. You know, and he was just like, yo, you know, you was the one that was like in the streets. You was the one this, and that. So we started talking, and he was just like, yeah, you know, I was the one I used to wear Cam sneakers. I was this, and that. I said, why don't you just say it? Like, just say that. You don't need the sneakers now, do you? Like, nah. All right, then. So why not just say this? It's like, I don't understand why people can't appreciate and respect their humble beginnings. You know what I'm saying? And he did. He went on, did the joint with Angie, and he basically discussed everything that we had discussed. He was very transparent. I was kind of proud of him. I was like, yeah, say, you know, but I mean, some other things he said he could have did without, but it was just like the foundation of his approach was, you know, we go back. That's my man. You know, and I explained to him also, like, you already been through this with the Biggie Pac stuff. You already know. It's going to be all of the underlinks, all of these loyalists. They're the ones that's going to leave this trail of carnage. You and Cam ain't going to contribute to none of that. It's going to be cats around y'all trying to prove theyself. You know what I'm saying? Trying to get in y'all graces. They're going to be harming people on, you know, on these bases. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you got to diffuse that. So, and that was kind of like the last time we had a real in-depth conversation. I spoke to him briefly since I've been home, and I really ain't spoke to him since. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't have no animosity towards him. I don't have no animosity towards nobody. Like, you know, when I'm at my life right now, I'm very much at peace. You know, I found something that I didn't even know existed. You know what I'm saying? So to trade that to go backwards would just be asinine, you know? And that's not where I'm at in life. So, you know, I seen the podcast and McCam got, and it's like,
I was about to ask that. What do you think about it? What do you think?
Nah, I mean, that's them.
That's them. So, yeah, pretty much that's them.
Yeah, that's them, man. I mean, you know, now, like I said earlier, and you know, when we started this, the opportunity to do journalism, you know, that's just my perspective, my opinion, you know what I'm saying? And seeing them bring something that's organically themselves is definitely entertaining, you know what I'm saying? It definitely serves a purpose based on what they want to offer from a more humorous standpoint. And I'm not against, like, nobody's efforts to utilize their platform to do whatever they want. But I think that we just in some, you know, we're in different times right now to where, you know, many of us is looking at 50, like we really getting close to 50 years old out here. And we've survived a lot of things that we need to be sharing. We're at a point where we should be doing knowledge transfer. You know what I'm saying? We should be transferring knowledge, because that's what we both was intrigued by. Elders snatching us, putting us under their deodorant, you know, and you know, teaching us something.
But you know, for me, it's just like, you know what I realized, Loon? That it's not a lot of people like me. It's not a lot of people like you, right? And a lot of times I have expectations. And those expectations have had me at odds with people that I actually love.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I've had expectations and understandings and certain shit, like, and you just be like, why you don't get this? You know what I'm saying? And then when you start realizing they not gonna get it, and you just gotta love people for who they are.
That's it.
And just have, I don't really have many. Only thing I expect if I call you my friend is a level of loyalty and respect, right? I don't expect you to jump out the window for me the way I'm gonna jump out for you. I don't expect you to fight in a fire the way I'm gonna fight for you, because I know that ain't everybody. Everybody ain't what I call friendship everybody don't call friendship. What I call camaraderie, everybody don't have that same ideology. Like if me and you walk into the place and we there, and I don't care if it's Michelle Obama's here and this and that, and they say, yo, Loon can't come in. I'm just not going in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But some niggas gonna be like, yo, I'm gonna see you later, man. I need to be in this. And they justify. You understand what I'm saying? Like you can't. That's just the way. I remember. It's a story I tell all the time. Puff had called me to the studio to write for him, and I was me, Harry O, Cap, and Shelby. And we in the car. He like, yo, who you with? I'm like, I'm with my mans. He like, yo, you got to come alone. I said, I'm with my mans. He's like, all right. And then he was like, I couldn't come. And some of them was like, yo, you should have went. I was like, nah, I'm with y'all. Like, me and my mans, this is how I came into this. And sometimes I look back and say, damn, I don't know if niggas would have did that for me.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? And the reality of the situation is, but at the end of the day, I didn't feel no way because that's just who I am, and I've always been that individual. I get flack for going to jail for a crime that I didn't commit, knowing what happened, knowing the situation, because I didn't. And niggas like, yo, you stupid. You sat in jail. I don't feel nothing stupid about it. I feel like I did what was honorable, what I would have wanted a nigga to do for me in that situation. Niggas sit there and say, yo, you sat and did time at the peak of your career. When I sit there and think about it, it makes, I feel like, damn, niggas probably should have did something different. There should have been different activities. Mase actually came to visit me on Rikers Island. And I never remember he had this conversation with me. He's like, so you locked up now, Mike. So who gonna take care of your family?
Yeah.
Like, he said, who gonna, like, if you was out here, you know what I'm saying, you was the nigga with the money. You was the nigga with the deal. You was gonna take care of everybody. So who gonna make sure you good?
That's
and
the
your
thing
family
is,
good?
man, we grew up with that flat leaf mentality. See, that's the funny thing. Like, everybody growing up in the hood get to a certain point, right, where we learn this harsh reality that you can't take your team with you everywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You could take them many places, but not everywhere.
Not everywhere.
You know what I'm saying? And I think what's most repetitive is when we start having, you know, these unique relationships with girls growing up. You know what I'm saying? Because I ain't gonna lie, you know what I'm saying? When I was younger, I had a very distorted, you know, understanding of what that entails when it came to, you know, the young girls in the hood. You know, they live fast. They growing up like we growing up. Some of them growing faster than we growing up. And it's like, you know, it was just a different dynamic. But then you get to a certain age where it's like you start getting selfish. It's like, yo, I'm kind of like digging shorty. That's my girl. Now you moving different. Your crew, they looking at you like, yo, you know, we used to be pirates. Like, we used to go to, you know, every girl house together. They had to bring a friend, and, you know, we had to always be triple and double dating. It's like, nah, this my girl.
Yeah, it's different.
And when you get to that point, that's when you have a different level of scuffles with your boys now. Because they're like, yo, and then one of them might get out their mouth like, yo, I'm saying, man, such and such as, you know,
with that beat.
You with that beat. And it's like, yo, look, dog, you talking, you know
That's
what I'm
my girl.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And it's like, just to add to what you're saying, like, I learned this really just this last bit, you know. It's like you always want to put boxes on every man. You know what I'm saying? I just want to assume you wear boxes. Right? Now, I catch you in a pair of Speedos, you know?
It's going to shock me.
It is what it is.
Yeah, but he's going
it is going to shock you at first.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But then you start realizing it's just a process. Because to me, you're ordained to wear boxes. Period. You're a man. We're on man time. We're in an environment that breeds men. You should be wearing boxes. Now, you got to have boxer briefs. Okay, cool. That's your, you know, you have the discretion, you know what I'm saying? But still, they boxers. You know what I mean? But the minute you throw on, you know what I'm saying?
Speedos.
Yeah, it's like, come on, dog.
Yeah.
You disappointed, but I'm not invested.
Exactly.
And that's where the growth comes in.
Because it's my expectation.
Exactly.
I put that on you, and then when I start realizing
that ain't
you don't have to live up to my expectations.
Exactly. No, but that's you.
That's it. That's who you are. Because
if I invest in you living up to my expectation, that's too much. I'm giving too much energy, too much real estate, too much stock into that. It's like, it is what it is.
That's a fact.
Period. Because I need to pivot. You know what I'm saying? And I don't need you to, you know what I'm saying, to prolong my pivot. It's like, look, all right, cool. That's what you want. Cool. That's what's up.
That's it.
That's your choice. You know what I mean? Stand on it, though.
That's it.
Yeah, stand on it.
Just be on what you said.
Yeah, don't try to rock boxes when it's convenient.
That's
what
we at in the era where they want.
So, you know, I get it, man. Like I said, you know, since I've been home and I've been watching what you've been doing, you know what I'm saying, I admire for the reasons. Like, I had to actually check one of my homeboys because he was like, your man, yeah, he's an ambulance chaser. I said, why would you say that? I said, was you at Breonna Taylor's court case? Was you at any of these court cases sitting in the back of the courtroom when people were being done unjustly? Or were you just like everybody else? A spectator, a viewer, a couch coach. You know, people be coaching LeBron from the couch. You know what I'm saying?
Critics without credentials.
You know what I'm saying? So, and that's when I learned that, because, you know, in our era, anything that was hated, you know, had value.
That's a fact.
You know what I'm saying? It ain't like now people let that energy dictate their choices. Like, nah, if it's some pushback or something coming out, that means something, you know, something is happening.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And and as men, we learn to embrace that.
I had to learn to embrace it because what I started to do, like when I first started getting into this work, you know, I didn't know. I didn't get into it. This wasn't something I planned to do.
I didn't know.
You know what I'm saying? I just started. I was working in a detention center and working with these kids, and I was actually, the method that you was talking about, I was teaching hip-hop as an alternative to violence. The same way that you write about what you wanted to do, and I said, go write some lyrics, write it, and I was teaching. I had a whole course inside, you know, detention center about that, and I came out, and they was doing a rally for Eric Gardner. I was working with Harry Belafonte, God bless the dead, who just passed away, his organization, and we did a rally, and I went to the rally, and I felt like that's where I deserved to be. Right. And then I started going in rooms. I didn't see nobody that looked like me. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't nobody that had the came from the culture. It wasn't nobody that spoke my voice. Nobody that represented what I represented. Yeah. So a lot of us didn't feel like we need to be in the movement. But I know I wanted to fight for what's right. Yeah. I'm like, damn, they out here killing us, man. And I knew I wanted to be able to be there, but I didn't feel wanted. I didn't feel like it embraced me. So when I started going in the rooms, and then I started bringing brothers that looked like me, and other brothers start coming to the rallies that was from the streets, and they just came from the strip club, but they still at the rally. Yeah. Because you're at the strip club don't mean that you can't fight for our freedom. Because
listen, man, you gotta have all boots on ground.
Yeah.
In these situations, anybody that got any kind of influence in the matter need to be present. You can't alienate a person because they got shortcomings, deficiencies, and stuff like that. See, me, I'm just as invested, you know what I'm saying, as you are when it comes to the youth. You know what I'm saying? And I think it starts with home. So I focus on having my house in order. You know what I mean? I got beautiful kids. None of them follow my path. None of them evolve themselves, not even the slightest in anything I've ever done in the past. You know what I'm saying? And I attribute that to having balance between being a father, which is always depicted as an authoritative position, but also your friend. You know what I'm saying? Because we always shared those pivotal moments with our peers. You know, we didn't never take it back, like, you know, sit up. You know, I was raised by my grandparents. So, you know, I had a very, you know, open relationship with my grandparents, but I can tell them. You know, I can tell my grandfather when I run into man things, when I run into emotional things that I can't quite put my finger on. I talk to my grandmother about it because she can help me navigate through feelings. But with him, ain't none of that. My grandfather was like, you know, eye contact game, everything. You should be so vicious. And I used to be like, yo, this is a man. This is a man. You know what I mean? And he never put his hands on me. You know what I'm saying? He could just look at me, talk to me. I remember one time I had a real pinnacle moment where I started learning about jealousy. I didn't understand it because I'm flipping on pissy mattresses, doing everything with everybody that ain't got nothing, even though I was fortunate to have. But my heart was definitely in the trenches. You know what I'm saying? Because my grandma was a beautician. She stood on her feet 17 hours a day doing hair so we can live the way we live. So it wasn't like I came from a privileged situation. It's like, no, I got a long history of, you know, drug dealers, you know, drug kingpins, whatever, going all the way back to Bumpy Johnson. You know, so it was like I started realizing cats was being a little funny. And we were going back to what we were saying about getting to that moment where the girls are starting to feel you. You know, you're getting a couple dollars now. But I'm still, you know, putting lemon in St. Ives, and I'm out here doing everything with my boys. And it's like, but these things are starting to occur. And I'm noticing that there's changes in the behavior and the people that, you know, I think I'm doing it for. You know, because I ain't doing it for them. They just on my line right now. I'm doing this for the culture, for the team. You know what I'm saying? So I remember telling my grandfather, and I was like, yo, you know, it's like, Daddy, I think cats are starting to be jealous of me. And he just blatantly, what the fuck you gotta be jealous of you for? And that joint crushed me. I was like, in my mind, like, this is why I go to my grandma.
Because I don't want this.
Yeah, you know, because like, I needed to navigate
I need her to say,
this
that's
feeling.
right, baby, they jealous.
But his whole point of being stern in that moment was basically saying, why are you even thinking about it? Like, why are you even invested in that? You know what I'm saying? Because that's a deterrence.
Exactly, because you should be like, I ain't do nothing for nobody to be jealous of, so I don't even got to focus on that.
Exactly. It took me years to figure that out. Because at that moment, that joint hit me like bricks. I was like, man, this man is so insensitive.
Yeah,
man.
he's just trying to shoot me down.
Yeah,
Like, I ain't
like,
nobody.
Yo, just snap me. And I'm like, I don't even want to go nowhere else now.
Yeah.
I ain't even going to ask nobody else. I'm just going to figure this joint out.
No, but that's a lesson that we have to learn. Because I tell people, your opinion of me is none of my business.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter. It does, especially if it doesn't affect my everyday life. People gonna have opinions.
Yeah.
So you call me a ambulance chaser. I know.
Yeah.
Like you said, Breonna Taylor's mother used to call me in the middle of the night crying. George Floyd's brothers and cousins and his nephew used to call me, and I was there with them during the days, like sitting in the rain and sitting in the courtroom when they had to go through that. I was making sure that they got where they got to go. Other people that you never know of. That I've helped them with their loved ones and dead loved ones and helped them get their friends out of jail and family out of jail. So I know what I do. Yeah. So your opinion of something that you don't have any understanding of is cool because you deal on the internet.
But the problem is people don't see the incentive in it. That's what it is. You know, you're going to quickly dispel something that's noble because they're like, what's the incentive? That's just like how we looked at people that work their jobs. Oh, yeah, square. But guess what? He ain't got a lot of his family.
Yeah.
That check he get every month is on time. We out here getting seesaw money. You know what I'm saying? I used to tell people about this street stuff. It's like, yo, it's seesaw money. You promise your girl a fur, something happened, you take a L, now she gotta get a North Face. It'll make you a liar. Street money will make you a liar. You don't have to be a liar. It's just the things that take place in that game, you know, you have no control over.
That's a fact.
You know what I'm saying? So now when there's some variation of what you
promised,
you promised or you planned or whatever the case may be, that joint go from Disneyland to we going to Six Flags. Oh, Six Flags.
Six Flags?
That's in Jersey.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And people don't understand that. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I wouldn't change it for nothing. Because people in this generation, they look at the game wrong. They look at it from the wrong lens. It's like this was an extension of who we were. We got in where we fit in.
Yeah, we took what we had and we dealt with it. And the fact that we dealt with what we had is the reason why you have opportunities that you have.
Exactly.
We took steps and we crawled so you could walk so that you can run eventually.
And that's why I say, like, what you doing and what I'm out here by Lord's permission trying to do is, you know, offer something in return for surviving. I don't owe nobody nothing. But because I survived and I see that, you know, the path is so unclear, I feel it's my right and my duty to give you some clarity.
That's a fact.
You know what I'm saying? You still got to make the decisions. I can't tie your shoe for you. You know what I'm saying? Because we got a statement in Islam where they say, you trust in the law, but tie your camel. You know, you can trust in God, but you have to tie your camel. You know what I mean? Because it's like if Allah create a path for you, but you trip over your own shoelaces, Allah ain't going to tie your shoe for you.
Yeah, you can't walk in front of a train and say, I'm going to leave it up to God.
Yeah, no. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it'll work that way. Sense. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying. So, like I was saying with the youth, I'm very hopeful. You know what I'm saying? That this generation, they got all the means. They got everything they need. You know what I'm saying? To be extremely influential in a way that motivates and inspires to be, you know, who we destined to be in our, you know, respected communities.
That's right.
You know, we have it all. We didn't have that. No. We had very limited options growing up. I speak to the youth all around the world. And even though sometimes it's predominantly Muslim communities, but I look at-risk youth, they have a commonality. All of the influences are the same. You know, what influences a Muslim kid is the same thing that influences a non-Muslim kid. You know what I'm saying? So whether they have a foundation based on their faith, it doesn't exclude the fact that this other kid cross town who may not have that, he has the same influence. It's the same things tearing him away from anything that may be righteous or pious or upright. So when I say I'm hopeful, it's because they're seeing what they have access to. And it take people like us, you know what I'm saying, just to help them navigate through having a certain heightened sense of gratitude for what you have. You got something that I didn't have. You know what I'm saying? It's not so much about trying to demean them, because that's what a lot of, you know, elders go, yeah, we're trying to break them down. Like, y'all saw, y'all did. I don't do all that. You know what I'm saying? I don't do all that. Now, we got some cowards out here. Don't get me wrong. It's definitely.
But I think for me, when I talk about coward culture, I don't talk about the youth. I think that the elders are the ones that are influencing.
Supposed to have sense.
Supposed to. The people that you think that's 30 plus, that have been through this and that, what they've done is they're preying on the babies.
Yeah.
Because they learned how to manipulate, right?
I agree.
They went through what they went through. Instead of giving them the game, Wallow said it the real, she said, instead of giving these kids games, y'all running game on them.
On them, yeah.
So that's what's happening. So when I talk about, I never... They be like, why you don't talk about this person? Because these is babies. I know the evolution that they have. But when you 30 plus, and I know that you've been through and you've been around and you've seen this, and you're using that influence to negatively impact and run game on these kids so you can profit.
Yeah.
Then you draw a clear. You're a part of the problem.
That's it.